winter. Go to fuelyourneighbors.org to donate today. Even the smallest donation can help. The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to wdev@radiovermont.com.
The energy. The guy told me I was no spring chicken anymore, and that's why my ankle was still hurting. I'm 33, not 133. The passion. The Red Sox handling of Xander Bogaerts is a complete organizational failure. The opinions on all your favorite teams. No, not this year, but it's next year where Bill Belichick ends up on the hot seat. This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com. What's up, everybody? I am back and pumped to be here. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. It is a Wednesday. I enjoyed a day off yesterday. I was still working, watching UVM basketball against Toledo. Thanks to Nick Mumley for filling in. I thought the show went great. Nick sounded great. You all treated him well. And here we are back at it today. Nearly a full show. We will take you up until 6:45, about 6:40, and then we give way to the pregame show for high school basketball. On the boys' side, it's Montpelier and Lamoille today. From Lamoille, Brent Curtis will be on the call. Freddie Coleman is going to be with us here at about 5:45, and Freddie is the man. And you're going to find out why when we talk here in about 15 minutes. I did speak with Tom Caron of Nesson today, our Red Sox and Bruins insider. You might hear a little bit of that on the show, but the full interview is already up on our podcast channel. I'll tell you what I took from UVM yesterday in the loss to Toledo. And people keep asking the same question about Mac Jones, and I think there's a fairly simple answer. So we will get to all of that over the course of the next 75 minutes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
You can get in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, like our guy Peter in Williston. He's listening with us here on the DEV app, so appreciate Peter being with us. Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, 802-585-3026. It's your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. And the opening thoughts are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. Okay, I am officially tired of Steve Cohen, his money, and the New York Mets. I am officially tired of them all. And this is going to sound bitter, and this is going to sound like sour grapes, and guess what? I don't care. My name's on the show. It's my party, and I'll cry if I want to. I am tired of Steve Cohen and of the Mets, and you know what? I think for the majority of baseball fans, emphasis on fans, the majority of baseball fans, Steve Cohen is not good. And the reason being is that now in Major League Baseball, the gap between the top of the league, the midpoint of the league, and the bottom of the league, they will continue to widen. So that means if you are a fan of most teams in Major League Baseball, not all, most, you are screwed. And I hate that. And again, yes, it sounds whiny, and yes, it sounds bitter, but I don't care. I don't. By now, you've heard the backstory. Carlos Correa had a 13-year deal with the Giants, flagged as physical, didn't pass it. This morning around 3:15 a.m., the New York Mets have a deal with Correa instead. 12 years, $315 million. So one less year, $35 million less total. But now the New York Mets have now paid this offseason $315 million for Correa, 85 or so for Justin Verlander, 150 plus, I think it's 162 for Brandon Nimmo, the outfielder. 5 years, $75 million for Kodai Senga, the Japanese pitcher. More than $100 million to retain Edwin Diaz. And oh, by the way, last year they signed Scherzer, and the year before that they got Lindor. I mean, the spending that Steve Cohen and the Mets have put out in the last few years is insane to me. And I'm officially tired of it. And I want to make this clear. I want baseball teams to spend money. I was in favor during the CBA arguments of last offseason. I was in favor of the competitive balance tax being raised. I'm in favor of players getting paid. I am in favor of all of that. I'm pro-labor. I really am. I promise you. But what I don't want is one team or a very small number of teams to completely dominate the market more than they already do, and to completely squeeze out other teams around the league from that market more than they already do. Now, I'll qualify the Mets situation this way. They have not bought and paid for a championship yet. In fact, you look at the Mets roster, a lot of what they have done is pay a bunch of money to kind of just cover up things that they've lost. So I don't know if they're appreciably better even than a year ago when they won more than, I think, 101 games. I don't know if they're appreciably better. They're probably a little better because they cover up all their losses and they get Correa. But they're not like some guaranteed championship just yet. But it's really heading that way. And it's only going to get worse. And that's what bothers me. This is not going to stop here. This doesn't stop for the Mets at this offseason. This will continue to snowball. And Shohei Ohtani will be a Mets target next year. And Juan Soto will be a Mets target the year after that when he becomes a free agent. And that just infuriates me. It really just infuriates me. I believe, kind of like Chaim Bloom to a degree, I believe in my core there is a proper way to develop a Major League Baseball team, and this ain't it. You are supposed to draft and develop. You are supposed to sign and develop. Your player development system is supposed to work, and you're supposed to bring guys up through the minor leagues. And then you are supposed to spend. You are supposed to accentuate your roster through free agency. You are not supposed to build it. That should be the model. And it takes a lot of skill, and it's hard. And you know what? It should be hard. It should be harder than one guy just having the deepest bank account. And again, I'm sorry if you think I'm an old fuddy-duddy about this. I'm sorry if you think I'm outdated. I'm sorry if you think I'm whining because my team's not doing it. I believe there is a foundational way to build a baseball team, and this isn't it. You build from the inside, and then you go spend on a few guys to get the missing pieces. The Mets are not getting the missing pieces. The Mets are getting nearly all the pieces in free agency, and that is what I'm against. And you know what? I was against it when the Yankees were doing it 15 years ago. Before I was a Red Sox fan, I was against it when they were doing it. I don't love what the Phillies are doing, and I don't love what the Mets are doing. I'm pro-labor. I want guys getting paid. I don't have a huge problem with Carlos Correa getting $300+ million. I just don't want it all to come from one team or two teams. And that's where we're at. And yes, I get it. Some teams could spend more than they do, and some teams have cheap owners. I understand that there's 4 or 5 owners that probably don't deserve to own teams and should spend more, but there are teams like the Minnesota Twins that are going way out to try to sign Correa and not getting him because some bigger market team and Steve Cohen is coming and blowing them out of the water. And that is not what I'm for. And furthermore, you know what this is going to lead to, don't you? This isn't even just about Steve Cohen. It's not even just about the Mets. There's going to be a massive trickle down here. The Mets are winning the back page in New York. The Yankees can't have that. So guess what? They're going to spend, and they're going to become the evil empire even more again. So now I talk about it's not just Steve Cohen. It is a trickle-down effect that will bring this mentality to a few teams, and everything will be concentrated there, and most of us as baseball fans will be screwed. I'm not for that. The Mets are doing it. The Yankees will have to answer because of the Mets. The Phillies will have to do it because the Mets are in their division. The Dodgers will probably have to do it more than they've been. And we're all, the rest of us, the rest of baseball is just kind of left serving as the farm system for those couple of teams. And that's unfortunate. We had gotten to a point where prospect development and drafting had kind of taken over. And I understand there were some pitfalls there as far as owners being cheap. I do. But at least it leveled the playing field a bit where everybody can draft and everybody can develop. Now we're back to just who can spend the most. And I don't love that. I don't love that. 802-585-3026. Multiple texts here. Let's see. Peter in Williston, Texas is just as guilty as the Mets with how they overpaid for Corey Seager and Marcus Semien and now DeGrom. I agree, but I think that Texas is going, there's going to come a point where the Rangers are done spending. The Mets will not be done spending with Ohtani and with what's coming with Soto, etc. I think the Rangers are kind of at their limit. The Giants tried to spend big. I think they're probably kind of at their limit. Some of these other teams, they don't have a limit, and that's the problem. Virginia in Starksboro, do you want a salary cap then? This is how MLB works, bro. Talk to the players union if you don't like it. Well, look, I want a salary cap and a salary floor, and it's never going to happen. So I get that. I'm not even really fighting a battle. I'm more resentful as a fan that now we're back at bought and paid for championships. And if you tell me you like bought and paid for championships, I don't buy it because most people don't like that. Most people didn't like what the Yankees did. Most people didn't like how the Red Sox countered. Most people don't love Steve Cohen doing this. And in the NBA, most people hated the Big Three era too. LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, people said, oh, that ruined basketball. Durant go to the Warriors, oh, that ruined basketball. Kyrie and Durant teaming up together with the Nets, that ruined basketball. People don't like the Big Three. And I don't think people like this. People want their team to spend. People want their owner to be invested. People want their front office to care. I'm for all of that. But I like free agency to be about one or two missing pieces, not building the whole roster that way. Right? Not building the entire roster that way. I'm not for that. Text says, Virginia and Starksboro is tough as nails. Text comes back, you can't be pro-labor and pro-salary cap. Pick a side. Yeah, I can. I'm for salary cap and salary floor. I don't mind that Carlos Correa is making $35 million a year. I don't mind that Cody Senga's making his money or Brandon Nimmo's making his or Justin Verlander's making his. I would just like to see other teams either be able to get in the dance, and some of them need to be forced into be willing to get into the dance. So, yes, I would like a salary cap and a salary floor where you can get a wider distribution of talent. I don't care. I'm for guys making money. And I'm for, look, if his revenue goes up every year, then the cap can go up every year for all I care. But I'm not for the Mets having four $40 million a year players or four $30 million a year players. I would be more than fine if the Mets had one and the Yankees had one and the Red Sox had one and the Mariners had one and the Twins had one and the Blue Jays had one and the Orioles had one. I'd be more than fine with that. I like competitive balance, and I like more parity, and I don't like seeing the same teams use the same methodology to get where they're going and blow everybody else out of the water. That's not really what I'm about. I want a greater distribution of talent, and it's going to become more and more concentrated if people start spending like this. Let's see. And let's see. All right, more text. Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line. Lewis in Woodstock. Brady, you think Cohen is bad for baseball fans? Did I hear you right? I think Steve Cohen is bad for most baseball fans. Most. If you are a fan, look, Steve Cohen is great for the players, right? That's obvious. He's willing to pay a bunch. He will bring some of these other teams and force them into paying a bunch too. Steve Cohen is great for players. So 100%. Steve Cohen is great if you are a Mets fan, obviously. He is probably great if you're a Phillies fan. Probably great if you're a Yankees fan. He should be great if you're a Red Sox fan, although that one hasn't seemed to permeate just yet. But if you are a fan of the Diamondbacks or the Reds or the Brewers, well, now you know you have no chance to compete financially. And yes, while your owners could spend more, no one can spend this. Right? No one can spend this. I don't even have to look at the finances of what every owner is worth to know that nobody's worth more than Steve Cohen, and nobody can do this like he can. So I'm not a huge fan of it, right? The Twins tried really hard to get Carlos Correa. I think they said 10 years and almost $300 million or so. Didn't even come close. Didn't even come close. And Correa had already been there and liked it. So if it just becomes a financial game, there's going to become a point where certain teams are knocked out of it. Jenny in South Burlington, are you just jealous? Can't every owner in baseball do that? I don't think I'm jealous. Like I said, I want my team to spend. I want every team to spend. I just want whole teams to not be built on free agency. Rob in Moncton, do you think there should be a salary cap? Well, I just said that. Yes, there should be a salary cap. There should also be a salary floor. And as revenue goes up, bring the salary cap up every year, and bring the floor up every year. So I don't care. I don't care. But I don't need the Mets to be able to pay 4 guys at the top of the market and other guys can pay nobody. So salary cap, salary floor, right? Look, I was a fan of the Mariners for a long time. They still spent, but they never made the playoffs. They spent and couldn't make the playoffs. I can only imagine what it's like to be a team like the Pirates or a fan of the Diamond. I can only imagine what that's like. That would be absolutely horrifying to me. Peter says, if it wasn't Cohen, this would be somebody else. He's just the current scapegoat. Trust me, as a Reds fan, I am bitter, to be honest with you. Thank you. Danny says, this is all going to be funny when the Mets lose to a wild card team. That would be funny, frankly. And Rich in Starksboro says, Brady, I enjoyed you calling into your own show yesterday. Get a better phone, though. All right. I was using my AirPods. Evidently, you didn't like the sound. Well, here I am today behind the real microphone. And Virginia in Starksboro says, who called me tough as nails? I want his number. I'm still trying to figure out if Virginia in Starksboro is a woman. I'm just trying to, because I'll get some people who will text in from a husband or a wife's number, and I'll find out like months later that they're actually somebody different, but I've got them programmed wrong. So I don't know. I don't even know if Virginia in Starksboro is a woman. I don't even know if her name's Virginia, and if I just keep saying that because I read it wrong a year ago and have it in the thing wrong. So we'll find out, though. Virginia in Starksboro. And now Peter says, Brady, you're getting picked on. This is funny. Virginia's harsh, so is Jenny in South Burlington, but it's all good host and fan banter. Travis says baseball is better because there's a villain and the large markets team are spending money. The Mets, this is one of the things I hate too. The Mets being good are good for baseball. Yeah, they probably are at the major league level, like at the national office level. I don't care if the Mets are good. I don't need to see the Mets on ESPN 9 times instead of 6 or 12 times instead of 4. Yes, Rob Manfred likes that the Mets are good. Brady Farkas couldn't care less. It is the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. My guy Freddie Coleman is calling in.
One of the nicest guys in sports talk radio, and one of the smartest.
Mac Jones went out there, and he looked the part. Had command of the huddle, at command of his teammates. That is something that everybody thought they would see. No one thought they would see it this early.
It's time for our weekly conversation with ESPN's Freddie Coleman on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
All right, Freddie Coleman, ESPN Radio. With us now, Freddie and Fitzsimmons is his show, 9 p.m. weeknights on ESPN Radio. Freddie, pre-holiday edition. How are you?
I'm good, brother. How's everything with you, my man?
Everything is very good with me today, and you are part of the reason why. I'm going to get to that at the end of the interview, but I'm still so hot on this from last segment. I just got to go right into this with you. You're a Mets fan. Steve Cohen, good for baseball or bad for baseball? How should fans be feeling today?
Boy, that's a really good question because Steve Cohen is going to do everything he can, and he spent over $806 million in the offseason to try to get a Mets a championship that they have not won when it comes to the World Series since 1986. I don't think he's necessarily bad for baseball because he's not just spending money foolishly and hoping that things will work out. Even if these are the players that we need if we're going to win a championship, because how many times we've seen teams not spend money and they don't care about making their clubs better, and other owners that spend money foolishly thinking that's the right thing to do. Look at the pieces that he's tried to add when it comes to Justin Verlander and Carlos Correa. Teams and players look for those kind of matches, and he believes those kind of guys are going to help do exactly what the Mets have not done. That's been a world championship since 1986.
You know, we talked for years, though, in the NBA about if the Big Three was destroying the NBA, right? The Big Three era is destroying the NBA. Look, I like when my teams spend, and I like when players make money, but I also like a draft and develop model where free agency accentuates a roster rather than builds it entirely. Doesn't this feel like the Mets are heading towards the latter? And it's not going to stop here, Freddie. It's going to be Ohtani and Soto and everybody else.
If they win a championship, they'll consider that money well spent, because you look at the Los Angeles Rams and they win all in on so many players and forfeited draft picks in the present and the future. They won that championship in 2021, and even though they're going through it right now in 2022, they would have done it all over again and twice on Sunday if it meant winning a world championship. The Mets and other teams are in a similar position that if you believe you can spin your way to a championship and you win that championship, no one's going to say shame on you for spending a championship or overpaying that money. They're going to say my team got a championship, your team didn't get a championship, and now it's up to you to figure that out.
All right, I'm still hot on that. I'm going to get back to the Mets thing in the 6 o'clock hour. Let's go to the Patriots. I've had time now to digest the final play and what happened on Sunday, so I'm over that. But as a team, they're 7-7, and the talk up here is about a chasm between the players and the coaching staff, and the players kind of doing some things that are rogue. If you're Bill Belichick, how do you handle this?
If you're Bill Belichick, you got to let them know, hey, guys, that's not what we're teaching and that's not what we're preaching when it comes to a coaching staff. And if those players are going to be resistant to that, Bill Belichick has shown he will move on and get somebody else. But, Brady, more than ever before in modern football, if you're going to have that Patriot way and you think that Patriot way can work, you got to have dudes. And right now, if he's the dude at quarterback based on what we've seen this year, and speaking of chasms, how about that chasm between him and Matt Patricia, the guy calling plays for the New England Patriots? Their defense is really good. They do have some pieces. But if you believe that Mac Jones is the dude, then you got to get him two kinds of dudes. Number one, get him guys on the outside that can make plays down the field. And this way he has a fighting chance in games against Josh Allen or the Buffalo Bills and Tua Tagovailoa, the Miami Dolphins in that division. And the other dude they need to make a call to Alabama and Bill O'Brien, the offense coordinator, and see if he can come back and fix this offense. Because if anybody can fix Mac Jones, if anybody can be that play caller you're going to need, that guy's the guy. If Bill Belichick does not make that call in the offseason and decide to give Matt Patricia another year to call plays, then what are they doing when it comes to the Patriots? Where you can't just be stubborn. You got to be adaptive more than ever before in modern football in the NFL.
It's a short week for both teams, but do you think the Patriots have a shot against the Bengals on Saturday night, Christmas Eve in Foxborough, or the Bengals going to come in and stay hot?
The Bengals are going to stay hot because right now they're playing so well, not just with Joe Burrow offensively, but Brady, that running game with Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon. Now you can reduce that kind of pressure on your quarterback and Joe Burrow where he does not have to make every play. He does not have to make every throw and have that kind of pressure. That's what the running game has been able to do. The deep turning over people, we saw what they did against Kansas City, forcing that turnover against Travis. Same thing last week, all those turnovers in the second half. So this Patriots team running to a Bengals team that firmly believes they're not just a contender in the AFC, but that they're going to represent the AFC again and get to the Super Bowl. That's the kind of team you do not want to face at the end of the year when you're trying to get into the playoffs like the Patriots are trying to do in the AFC.
Freddie Coleman, ESPN Radio, Freddie and Fitzsimmons, weeknights, 9 p.m. He's here with us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV. You know, Freddie, I was off yesterday, but I was still working, right? Working even on my off day. I went to Patrick Gym for a 2 p.m. Weird Tuesday matinee where UVM basketball was taking on Toledo out of the Mid-American Conference. And Toledo came in here and they won by 12, 84-72. And what I'm saying here is not so much a question for you. It's just an observation because I need someone to talk about this with. I have determined UVM's biggest issue to be their lack of size. Like, they have a lot of issues on any given day, but lack of size is what leads to all of it. Like, Toledo came in yesterday and scored 44 points in the paint. And UVM is playing 5 guards in their starting lineup due to injuries and too much inexperience. So when Toledo scores at will, UVM is then forced to take the ball out underneath the hoop and walk it up the court and can't get out in transition. And then they have no post presence, so they're forced into shooting threes. 27 threes they took yesterday. They have no post players. Everybody's floating around the outside. Therefore, when they miss those threes, it turns into a one-and-done possession. They got out-rebounded yesterday by 16. Like, all the other issues UVM has, I believe, stem from lack of size. Can you buy my theory, even though you're not watching every UVM game, but just as somebody who sees a lot of mid-major basketball?
There's no doubt about that because Sacred Heart is going through something similar. The difference is at least they have a couple of guys that are 6'9". They're just not ready yet. They're essentially playing with 6'7", 6'6", 6'5" guys, or really 3 guards, and the 2 biggest guys are 6'6" and 6'7". So, yeah, the difference is if you're going to have that, maybe you switch up and play zone once in a while, maybe do a little bit. You can't allow your side. That's what teams are going a principal kind of team, then you better be able to double guys when that happens. And we'll see if they do that because now you have a blueprint that everybody in the American East Conference is going to see and make them adjust. And when you're able to do that, you wear down a team to get up and down the floor. But they're expending so much energy on the defensive end trying to keep big people from wearing their behinds out inside.
Catamounts and Bryant, it's the second game of the conference season for UVM. It's January 5th. That has been the game that ESPN has tabbed to be the nationally televised game for the America East. So Patrick Gym, January 5th, ESPNU. There you go, UVM and Bryant, the showdown everybody wants to see, Freddie.
Yeah, exactly. And Bryant, believe me, they're going to be really good in that conference. UMass Lowell is going to be really good in that conference. Stony Brook, as always, will be that kind of sleeper team. I think UMass Lowell can be that team. If you're Vermont, you're going to get a pretty good idea what you're going to have to deal with in the American East Conference because Bryant wants to come in their first year in the league and take it over like gangbusters. They want to be pirates storming the seas and going into towns and taking the loot and taking the gold and then leaving everybody in their wake. If you're Vermont, this is your chance to stand that ground and say, you may think you're going to come in here and do that, but we're not going to let you. So I can't wait to see exactly how that could be a potential barometer, not so much for Bryant because they know how they're going to play, but for Vermont to show that, hey, this is still our league, this is still our conference, and you just got here when it comes to Bryant basketball.
Well, that's going to be January 5th. Freddie, let me end it on this. I was pumped this morning, one, to see you filling in nationally on the morning show at ESPN on the Keyshawn, Jay, Will, and Max show. So you were filling in for Max Kellerman, Keyshawn Johnson, Jay Williams, and the guys with Courtney Cronin. You guys did a great show. Show was awesome. You were filling in all week. But in addition to just seeing you on my television on national TV this morning, you were also rocking a Brady Farkas Show sweatshirt. You made us famous for a little bit, Freddie. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm telling you, man, when I first saw the sweatshirt that you sent me, I said, oh, yeah, this is going to get more than a couple of wearings from me. And then I figured, why not? We're going to be on the show together like we always are on Wednesday. Why not have the shirt to be on and promote the show a little bit? And a lot of people gave us a lot of love on social media saying, man, where can I get one of those? So anything I can do to help you, I'm always willing to be on point and do that for you.
Well, it was awesome, man. I appreciate it. Our station appreciates it. The boss thought it was cool, so it was good from an optics standpoint, and more than that, just personally, it was cool. And I've always appreciated your willingness to come on, and always appreciated your support of me and of this show and of our station. So, Freddie, it's been a great partnership. We look forward to it continuing. Hey, I am off next week, so I'm not quite sure of our fill-in plans yet, so my people will call your people, but I hope you have a great holiday, and you and I will talk again in 2 weeks for sure.
There's no doubt about that. Have a Merry Christmas, my brother, and can't wait to talk to you after the Christmas holidays are over.
Yeah, I can't wait as well. Freddie Coleman, one of the best. And, yeah, earlier today, Freddie Coleman was rocking a Brady Farkas show sweatshirt on national television. I'll talk a little bit more about that after the break. That's next on DEV.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station, owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush, 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield, 96.5 W243 Barrie, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury Montpelier, streaming at WDEVradio.com. 91 years of serving Vermont, the friendly pioneer, WDEV.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Dell Small Business.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York. Get out or get stuck. Millions of holiday travelers are on alert tonight as a massive winter storm starts rolling in.
We've just been keeping an eye on our weather app and touching base back home, and everything has been so far on time with flights and everything.
But that may not be the case soon. Here's CBS's Peter Greenberg.
Even though the airlines are now offering waivers in some of these areas to be able to rebook your flights at no penalty, they're letting you rebook your flights at a later date. And what that often means is after Christmas. So you may be spending Christmas at home if you haven't been able to get out by now.
Airlines have already grounded hundreds of flights, but the next few days could be even worse as forecasters predict heavy snow, ice, and powerful winds across much of the country. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Washington now meeting with President Biden before heading to Capitol Hill tonight to address Congress.
As he stood in the East Room in green fatigues, the Ukrainian president said with the help of the U.S., he's sure his country will win the war. And Volodymyr Zelensky said he's certain, even as the House changes hands.
I believe that there will be bipartisan and bicameral support.
A Ukrainian reporter asked President Biden why the U.S. hasn't sent more advanced weapon systems. Zelensky responded in English.
I agree.
President Biden said he worried about upending the NATO alliance, but he vowed the U.S. would stand with Ukraine as long as it takes. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, Washington.
The House panel investigating the insurrection hit the pause button on releasing its final report on the Capitol attack today, but will likely get it tomorrow. This, as CBS's Deborah Alfarone tells us, the panel's getting more pushback.
Republicans continue to dismiss the bipartisan committee as nothing more than a partisan attack.
It was set up as political theater. It's still political theater. Investigations ought to be done by law enforcement, not by some political group out of the House.
The committee already began handing over records and transcripts to the Department of Justice earlier this month.
A popular cookie maker may have violated federal law.
A Utah-based company called Crumble Cookies has been fined nearly $60,000. A federal investigation found it violated child labor laws at 11 locations in 6 states. Violations included having minors as young as 14, working longer or later than allowed by law, and operating potentially dangerous machinery. Jim Crisula, CBS News.
The founder of FTX should be getting on a plane soon to be extradited from the Bahamas. Sam Bankman-Fried will face criminal charges here at home after losing investors millions of dollars. This is CBS News.
Dell Technologies' Days of Deals start now with specials on select business PCs powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Call 877-ASK-DELL.
Dell Technologies Days.
Hi, I'm Allison Calderera from Capstone Community Action. This year, making ends meet is especially hard for low-income families. At Capstone, we are seeing firsthand the struggles Vermonters face to afford food and heat. Our food shelf visits are rising, and our phones are ringing with Vermonters worried about staying warm with high fuel prices. But there is hope. Right here and right now in your community, our doors are open to help struggling families that are cold and hungry. At our food shelf, we'll feed over 500 kids this year. Our crisis fuel program will keep seniors on fixed incomes warm during the bitter cold months. But we can't do this work without you. Together, we can help ensure no Vermonters have to choose between heating their homes and feeding their families this winter. Please give generously at fuelyourneighbors.org. Your donation will be matched by our generous sponsor, VSECU. Thank you.
Winter's here, which means cold temperatures and sometimes icy sidewalks and roadways. These conditions can often make it challenging to stay active. I'm Nadia Fletcher, a nurse practitioner in our cardiology clinic at Copley Hospital. I'm fortunate to work with a dynamic team that includes cardiologists Dr. Adam Cunin and our recent addition, Dr. Michael Hayes. Our tip for a healthy heart during the winter months is to get at least 20 minutes every day of moderate intensity aerobic activity such as brisk walking, dancing, snowshoeing, or cross-country skiing. Add in some resistance or weight training twice a week. Physical activity is one of the best ways to keep your body healthy and your brain sharp, as well as improving mood during these cold and dark winter days. Remember to keep your body warm with plenty of layers and avoid going outside on the coldest days. On behalf of the cardiology team at Copley, we extend warm wishes to all for a safe winter season. For more information on cardiology services at Copley, call 802-888-8344 or visit copleyvt.org.
The Brady Farkas Show now has an interactive text line, so reach out now at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Yeah.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Reminder, high school basketball coming up tonight on these airwaves. It's the Montpelier at Lamoille boys. Brent Curtis is already courtside for us at Lamoille, and he tells me that the JV game is at halftime with Montpelier leading that one by 6. So our coverage slated to begin in about 40 minutes. So I'll take you up until 6:45. I want to thank Freddie Coleman for stopping by. Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio and the Freddie and Fitzsimmons show. And I got to say, sorry, I was getting a text in from Brent just about what's going on there at the basketball game. My mistake. Freddie's the best. And I've said this before, and I think it always bears worth repeating, that Freddie comes on for free every week, right? And sometimes it's live on the show, and sometimes it's on the podcast channel, and Buster Olney comes on every week, and that's free, and Bob Sosi comes on every week, and Phil Perry comes on every week, and Tom Caron comes on every week. These guys are coming on for free. And I think that just bears repeating, because I think it's important for you to know that they're not out here looking to take money from the small market. But beyond that, what Freddie did today was really, really cool. Freddie was getting his chance today, right? Like, Freddie's been at ESPN since 2004. He's happy, I know, in his nighttime slot. But he got his chance today to do Morning Drive, right? To do the 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. show, the biggest show at ESPN Radio. Freddie got a chance to do it. And that show is televised on ESPN2, and then I think it flips over to ESPNU later. But on a day and a week that's about his chances, Freddie decided to shout out us and decided to shout out me. And if you haven't seen it yet, go to my Twitter account at WDEV Radio Brady, and you'll see Freddie Coleman on ESPN Radio and on ESPN television, nationally televised, wearing a Brady Farkas Show sweatshirt. And I got to say, I've done a lot of cool things in this business, right? 8 years in now, I've been to a lot of cool places, Super Bowl weeks and NCAA or America East Championship games, sitting courtside, and I've talked to a lot of cool people, Hall of Famers and all pros, etc. So there's not much in this business that kind of gets me starstruck anymore. I kind of feel like I belong doing this. So nothing really gets me starstruck anymore. Seeing Freddie do that today kind of starstruck me, and it definitely was a humbling experience, because I'm like, Freddie didn't have to do that. You know, I'm happy that he got the chance for himself. He didn't need to use that platform to shout out us, but he did it anyways. He is that kind of guy. He comes on for free. He takes his opportunity and showcased us. And for 4 hours, the entire country that was watching ESPN Radio got to see the Brady Farkas Show logo. And that was something that kind of starstruck me. Freddie is the best. Peter says, Freddie is the man. That was great. Freddie is the man. And that was great. Yeah, the picture is up at WDEV Radio Brady. Excuse me. All right. I went to the UVM game yesterday, right? Catamounts were beaten by Toledo 84-72. And as I told Freddie, it became clear to me yesterday, watching this team in person again, that the biggest issue plaguing Vermont is their lack of size. Right? We have talked a lot, game by game, about what's gone wrong here, what's gone wrong there. Yesterday, in person, it all crystallized to me. All of those other issues stem from one issue: lack of size. That's it. That's it. And look, I'm not shocked that UVM lost yesterday. I'm not. Toledo's really good. Don't lose sight of that. Okay? Toledo won their league last year in the regular season. They were picked second in the MAC preseason poll this year. They are very, very good. They have 2 of the top 30 scorers nationally in points per game. Toledo's really good. I am not surprised that Vermont lost. But yesterday I walked away thinking one thing: this team's lack of size is costing it. Again, some days shooting is bothersome, some days it's rebounding, some days it's defense, some days it's this, that, or the other. It all stems from the same thing: lack of size. Because let me paint this picture for you, and once I do, when you see the snowball get going down the hill, you will see where it all makes sense. UVM could not defend Toledo yesterday. Toledo had an easy time getting to the lane. They had an easy time finishing at the basket, and they had an easy time shooting over Vermont. There was no internal presence there for UVM to deter Toledo from doing those kind of things. So, Toledo had 44 points in the paint yesterday. More than half their overall points came in the paint. So Toledo dominated on the interior. So one, that's bad just because of what happens on the scoreboard. But again, Vermont didn't have the size to take that away. Now what happens? Toledo scores. That's bad enough. Now, UVM playing this small lineup, this 5-guard lineup, has to walk the ball up the court against a defense that is set. UVM is not built with this lineup to play in the half court. You can play in the half court when you have a great post player, right? And you want to wait and slow play it, let him get down there and set up, etc. UVM is not that. UVM is playing 5 guards. They are better served running up and down the court, making the game a track meet, using speed and athleticism and to create mismatch and create open shot opportunities. That's how UVM wants to play. But when you can't stop anybody because you're so small, you can't do that. So Toledo gets back on defense. Vermont walks the ball up the court. And then with these 5 guards, what happens yesterday, especially in the first half? UVM has all 5 guards on the perimeter, just kind of floating there. And as a result, UVM doesn't have a lot of ball movement, and they're forced into taking a bunch of threes. There is no inside-out game for Vermont. In a matchup like that, there was no inside-out presence. In a perfect world, like we saw last year, UVM stops them on the defensive end. Ben Shungu flies up the court, creates a wide-open 3 for somebody in the corner. Or Ben Shungu gets going downhill and goes to the basket himself. Or Ben Shungu draws a double team and kicks to a wide-open shooter. Or Ben Shungu does have to bring it up slowly and puts it to Ryan Davis in the post, who takes you to the rim. That doesn't happen right now. Not with this team, not this year. The lack of size does not allow that to happen. So UVM floats around the perimeter, all 5 guys, and they shoot a ton of threes. Yesterday, Vermont took 27 threes. And I don't necessarily mind that, but 5 guys on the perimeter, watching the ball, guy shoots, and a bunch of small guys stay on the perimeter, and there's no one there to rebound. And Vermont ends up getting 1 shot and done. 1 shot and done, and that's it. So you either better make everything and not miss, or you're ending up with 1 shot. And that's what happened last night. That's what happened, especially in the first half. UVM was out-rebounded in that game by Toledo by 16. That's the game. Okay, because look, the lack of size leads to everything I just talked about. Lack of size, you can't play defense like you want to. You can't play defense like you want to. You then can't get in transition like you want to. When you can't get in transition and you have to play slow, then you're forced into taking 27 threes. When you have 5 guards and everybody's on the perimeter, you have no rebounding presence, and then we do the whole thing over again. Toledo gets out in transition. They push the envelope. They then get you in foul trouble. They then get offensive rebounds. They then get helter-skelter. They then hit buckets. And you have to walk the ball at the court again. I mean, Toledo scored 84 points yesterday. Vermont's calling card is always defense. I've seen Vermont hold Florida State to less than 84 points, Arkansas to less than 84 points. Vermont has the ability to usually to hold bigger teams to lower scoring outputs. They always have been. Yesterday they couldn't. This year they can't. And that's the problem. So we can sit here and talk about they shot X percent this day or X percent that day or this. It's all stemmed from lack of size. You can't defend the interior. You can't get out in transition. You go one shot and out. You get out rebounded by 16. You get beat by 12 on your home floor. I'm not surprised UVM lost, but I'm happy now that I got the answer in person yet again as to what is going on. There were some really good things. Okay, this is not just a crush UVM session, right? They did some really good things yesterday. But if you're looking for the wart of this team, that is it. The biggest wart is the lack of size, and that leads to everything else, right? That leads to everything else. And Nick Fiorillo is 6'8". He's your starting center. He's out for 8 weeks. Can't help that. Perry Smith Jr. just isn't ready yet, apparently. That one maybe you could help. We'll get into that tomorrow. But Nick Fiorillo, you can't help him being out. You can't help that Davis had an extra year and chose not to use it. That Powell had an extra year and chose not to use it. You had guys that maybe could have come back and didn't. And Matt Veretto, 6'8", more of a perimeter player. Not really a down-low banger. So 802-585-3026. The Catamounts are 6-8. They're going to go to Miami on the 28th. They'll likely fall to 6-9 as the Hurricanes, I believe, now are ranked inside the top 25. So, it's going to have been a tough non-conference schedule, as we anticipated. We said the record could be 6-9. Now you're going to go into America East play, and you're going to have to figure out a way to get by the teams in your own league. Couple of texts. Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, 802-585-3026. Dave in Winooski. It's going to be a down year, no doubt. Just have to look for growth from new guys. Dave, I'm not here for a negative attitude. Okay, let's understand this. UVM is going to be there at the end. In their league, they are going to be there at the end. They are. Right? So you can tell me it's going to be a long year or it's going to be a down year. They are going to have a chance to be there at the end. Because when they are playing in their own league, most teams are not going to be able to exploit their lack of size like Toledo could, like Miami will, like USC can, like St. Mary's did. Right? That's just a fact. Now, Bryant's very good. UMass Lowell looks very good. There might be some teams that can take advantage of it, but by and large, most teams are not going to be able to exploit UVM's biggest weakness like these other teams have been able to throughout the league. The schedule will soften. The competition will come back to them. They will have been battle-tested, and they will be there at the end. So, you can tell me, just look for growth from the new guys. I am still looking to win the league. The thing that Vermont will not win a game in the tournament this year. One, their record will not be good enough to get a good enough seed. And two, their lack of size, they would get dominated in a tournament game. That's true. And that's a disappointment to me. But if you're looking for what the ceiling of this team is, the ceiling is still winning its own league. And you telling me that basically they don't have a shot at it, I'm not buying that. I am not buying that. Nate says, I'd be shocked if they win the league this year. They don't look at it. They don't look right. I mean, again, negative attitude. We don't need that, Nate. They are going to have a chance to win this league. They're going to have a chance to. They're going to finish in the top 3 of their league. UMass, Lowell, Bryant, they're certainly going to be there. Vermont's going to be there too, 100%. And that January 5th game against Bryant, I believe it's the second conference game of the year for UVM. I believe it's the Patrick Jim opener for conference play. That game's going to be on national television. That game's going to be on ESPNU. And it's going to be a big one. That's going to be a fun one. And I'm going to try to find a way to get there. So I might have to get there late after this show, but maybe we'll have high school basketball, and I can find a way to get there myself. So it is the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, people keep asking the same question about Mac Jones. And to me, the answer is simple. I'll tell you what it is. That's next on DV.
Hunger Mountain Co-op has been Montpelier's community-owned natural grocery store since 1972. The co-op features nearly 3,000 local products, including fresh produce, house-made, prepared foods, artisanal cheeses, distinctive wines, and handcrafted baked goods. The co-op's purpose is deeply rooted in our belief that good food helps create sustainable local food systems and vibrant, healthy communities. Hunger Mountain Co-op is located at 623 Stonecutters Way, Montpelier, and is open daily 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Online at hungermountain.com. Co-op. Everyone is welcome.
Dell Technologies' Days of Deals for Business start now with fresh, limited quantity deals on tech to drive productivity. Save on select performance laptops and desktops powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Don't forget special pricing on the latest monitors, docks, and accessories, plus free shipping on everything, and special financing with Dell Business Credit. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Give the gift to the Cheesecake Factory. Through December 31st, get a free $15 bonus card for every $50 gift card purchase at thecheesecakefactory.com or at any of the Cheesecake Factory restaurants. Visit thecheesecakefactory.com for more details.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. They're close, convenient, and known for guaranteed everyday low prices and excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
New England Municipal Resource Center, NEMRIC, supporting strong communities by helping local governments since 1986.
Shop amazing this holiday season when you shop in Montpelier, USA Today's #1 best small town for shopping. More than 40 unique, locally owned stores offer products and service you won't find anywhere else. Learn more at montpelieralive.org/holidays.
Hunger Mountain Co-op has been Montpelier's community-owned natural grocery store since 1972. The co-op features nearly 3,000 local products, including handmade soap, pottery, candles, distinctive wines, artisanal cheeses, and handcrafted baked goods. Hunger Mountain Co-op is located at 623 Stonecutters Way and is open 8 a.m. through 8 p.m. daily. Everyone is welcome. Visit them online at hungermountain.coop. Come play at Woodbury Mountain Toys. You'll discover the finest selection of board games, creative building toys, science kits, puppets, STEM products, Legos, and more. For the young and young at heart, inspire the imagination at Woodbury Mountain Toys on State Street.
Do you know what people see when they Google you? Search engines don't always get it right. And when they're wrong, it's your reputation on the line. So what do you do when you don't agree with your search results? Call Reputation Defender at 800-401-6681. Reputation Defender by Norton is one of the most trusted names in online reputation repair. We have over a decade of experience in fixing people's search results, and we can help you too. Using cutting-edge approaches, Reputation Defender pushes unflattering information down to lower pages of your search results, where few people ever look. We also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, letting you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. You owe it to yourself to take control with Reputation Defender. Visit www.reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 for free advice on your situation. 800-401-6681. That's 800-401-6681.
Think you know sports better than Brady does? Text in with your thoughts at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. We're about 20 minutes away from our coverage beginning of high school basketball today between Montpelier and Lamoille on the boys' side. Brent Curtis informs me they are moving swiftly through the junior varsity game, so hopefully we stay right on track for a 7 p.m. tip-off. You know, people keep asking the same question about Mac Jones, and I want you to understand the answer is very, very simple, and the answer is something we've been telling you all year. So I was talking to Lee Cattell earlier today, right around the office, and he goes to me, Brady, what's wrong with Mac Jones? What's happened? He was so good last year. They made the playoffs. Why is he regressing? What's going on? And I see that everywhere. What's happened to Mac? Why is Mac so bad this year? And I want you to do me a favor. If you ever hear somebody ask, what's happened to Mac Jones? I want you to remind them of what's been said over and over again right here on the Brady Farkas Show. Mac Jones is not special. I've been saying that since day one. Mac Jones is not special. But more importantly than that, Mac Jones is a guy who needs a lot of help. And most quarterbacks in the NFL need a lot of help. Mac Jones, like most quarterbacks, needs a lot of structure. And when you whittle away at that structure, their performance goes away. The performance gets worse. The performance regresses. It's really that simple to me, right? Follow the logic. A truly special quarterback can overcome dysfunction, right? A truly special quarterback can overcome injury, can overcome coaching, can overcome dysfunction. Josh Allen is a special quarterback. Joe Burrow appears to be a special quarterback. For a long time, Tom Brady, for a long time, Aaron Rodgers were special quarterbacks. The truly great ones, and we're talking Hall of Famers, they can overcome dysfunction and they can rise above. Most quarterbacks in the league cannot rise above dysfunction. And Mac Jones is in that category, and dysfunction is what he's got. So this year, it is not so much that Mac Jones has gotten worse. His skills have not completely eroded. What is eroded is what is around him. And you see this all over the NFL, right? Matthew Stafford was always a good quarterback. He couldn't overcome the Lions. He couldn't. He goes to the Rams, and he gets a better offensive coach. And he gets better offensive players. And he has a team that's relatively healthy, right? Cooper Kupp played in the Super Bowl, and so did OBJ. At least he started it. And Aaron Donald played. And Jalen Ramsey played. And he wins the Super Bowl, right? Like, the same Matthew Stafford with the same skill set went from going 4-12 or 7-9 every year to winning the Super Bowl. Why? Situation got better. Most quarterbacks need an advantageous situation, and Mac Jones is one of them. So people all around me, man, what's happened to Mac? Mac doesn't look very good. What's going on with Mac? Mac is the same guy. What is not working for Mac is everything around him. Take a look at what happened a season ago. Okay? Last year, number one, Mac Jones had an advantageous coaching situation, right? He had complete synergy between owner, head coach, and offensive coordinator. That was huge. In Josh McDaniels, he had an established offensive coordinator. He had a coordinator who had worked with multiple quarterbacks and had found multiple teaching styles to those quarterbacks. He knew the offense inside and out, and he knew the best way to relay that information to a new quarterback. So last year, Mac Jones has a good coaching situation. This year, he doesn't. Right? So that's one thing. We have now, last year, Mac Jones wins 10 games, gets to the playoffs, goes to the Pro Bowl. And you look at all the things that went right for him, and then now you look at it and say, okay, what's not going right? Last year, good coaching situation. This year, bad coaching situation. There you go. We've already now taken away one thing from Mac Jones that he had last year. The performance goes down a bit. Last year, the Patriots were relatively healthy, especially on the offensive line and at the running back position, right? Okay, last year, I had the numbers here, right? David Andrews started all 17 games last year. Shaq Mason started 15. Ted Karras started 13. Isaiah Wynn started 15. The offensive line last year was mostly healthy. This year, well, Ted Karras is gone. Shaq Mason is gone. So we've now whittled away the offensive line in terms of numbers. David Andrews has missed multiple games. Isaiah Wynn has started just 7 games. Damian Harris has missed multiple games now at the running back position. So now we've whittled away at that structure that Mac Jones needs to succeed. Mac Jones needs a cushy situation to be good. Most quarterbacks need a cushy situation to be good. Mac this year doesn't have it. Coordinator situation's worse. Health-wise around him has been worse. Oh, by the way, his own health has been worse. He suffered his own injury and was limited as well. That's a huge deal. And last year, the Patriots had a more advantageous schedule. Last year, the Patriots played the NFC South division. The NFC South was bad last year outside of Tampa, right? Saints were very good, although the Patriots lost in them. Panthers weren't very good, and the Patriots killed them. Patriots played the Falcons and embarrassed them. I mean, so you played the NFC South, that's worse. Or better for you if you're Mac. Last year they played the Titans without A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry. They played the Browns without Nick Chubb. You don't get advantages like that every single year. Patriots had 9 home games last year. They only have 8 home games this year. I mean, you look at the structure that Mac Jones needs, and we've torn away at the fabric of it. I heard Nick filling in for me yesterday talking about, well, I hope Mac Jones can become Kirk Cousins. Guess what? Kirk Cousins also needs that structure. Kirk Cousins, for a long time, was Mr. 8-8. What does he have now? Well, he's got a new head coach who's an offensive mind, not a defensive mind. Kirk Cousins' situation got better. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, largely healthy. Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison. He's got good offensive weapons, and now he's got a good offensive coach. I mean, this is how it's done. If you're Josh Allen, you can overcome dysfunction. Tom Brady overcame it for a long time, apparently, in New England. Aaron Rodgers could do it. Russell Wilson could do it in Seattle for a long time. The truly special ones, the ones that are going to the Hall of Fame, they get around it. Mac Jones doesn't get around it. Okay? Jared Goff doesn't get around it. Zach Wilson doesn't get around it. Baker Mayfield doesn't get around it. Look at Baker Mayfield. He's another perfect example. 2020 season, the Browns go to the playoffs. Everything comes up Baker. Nick Chubb's healthy the whole year. Kareem Hunt's healthy, I believe, the whole year. Baker's healthy the whole year. There's no fans in the stands, so maybe that helps Baker from a crowd perspective that nobody's there to get on him. Nobody in his own building, no one in another building. Kevin Stefanski's a play caller that nobody really knows from a head coaching standpoint, so there's a newness there that takes some time for the league to adjust to. And the Browns go to the playoffs. Last year, Baker's hurt most of the year. Stefanski's been figured out a little bit. OBJ's got his issues. He's hurt. The line, which was so good in 2020, is injured now. It's not as good. Chubb is out with COVID a bit. Hunt was out with COVID. Right? Like the situation for Baker became a lot different. This is quarterbacking in the NFL, is trying to figure out who's good enough to overcome dysfunction, and Mac Jones just isn't. So when somebody says to you next time, why is Mac so much worse this year than last year? It's not that Mac is worse. Mac is largely the same guy. What has gotten worse is everything else around him. Everything else around him. Look, if Mac Jones went to San Francisco and played for Kyle Shanahan as a play caller, and had George Kittle, and had Deebo Samuel, and had Christian McCaffrey, and had that defense, guess what? I think Mac Jones would look really, really good. I think Mac Jones would look really, really good. Most quarterbacks in New England wouldn't look very good because the situation isn't very good. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Alex in Moncton says, QBs from Mahomes on down are a reflection of their offensive line. I forgot about Mahomes being special. Obviously, he is too. He says you can't evaluate a QB behind a bad line. I would agree with that. Of course, I would agree with that. Now, some quarterbacks can, again, a truly special quarterback, especially a mobile one, can hide a bad offensive line, right? Like Josh Allen could run around and hide a bad offensive line. Mahomes can hide a bad offensive line. Justin Fields can hide a bad offensive line. As long as you know how to not get hit, a mobile quarterback who's great can limit the effects of a bad offensive line. But most quarterbacks can't. Mac Jones' offensive line this year, not particularly good. Text says, curious why, if Mac is not special and Belichick has always been a guy where the best players play, why wouldn't they give Zappe another shot? Well, I believe that Mac is better than Zappe, right? Like, I believe that. That's first and foremost. I don't know that they believe that, but I think that they should. And I imagine, therefore, that they do. But number two, the main reason is I don't think Bill Belichick wants to admit that. Number one, I don't think Bill Belichick was wrong in his evaluation of Mac Jones. I think Bill Belichick understands that Mac Jones needs support and needs help, right? I think that is true. And if Belichick goes to Zappe, well, then it looks like he was wrong. And either Bill doesn't think he was wrong, or he certainly doesn't want to go in hat in hand and say to Robert Kraft, hey, I screwed this up, Mac sucks. I don't think that's the case. So I think Bill Belichick has to ride with Mac, unless they can clearly upgrade, which, they can't, right? Like, if they can get Lamar Jackson in free agency, then by all means do it. But they won't be able to. So if they could upgrade, then I would say go for it. But I don't think Bill thinks he was wrong, and I don't think Bill wants to go to Zappe to make it appear like he was wrong in his evaluation of Mac Jones. So I don't want to see Zappe play again. I want to see Mac play, and I want to see Mac play better. And the other thing that's different this year also, and you can call Mac soft if you want, but the confidence from his coaching staff isn't there this year, or at least the appearance of confidence. Last year, we talk about things that are different this year than last year. Last year, the Patriots cut a former MVP and said, kid, you are better. That's ultimate job security, isn't it? We got rid of a former MVP who was well-liked, to a lot of people wanted to see this quarterback still. Right? I was one of them. I wanted Cam Newton to be the quarterback at the start of last year. And maybe I would have been very wrong, but that's what I wanted, and I'm just being honest and upfront about it. They said, we're getting rid of that guy. We're giving you the job. Last year, Mac Jones had the utmost confidence. This year, they've played mind games with him in the media. They've dealt with Zappe fever also and handled it weirdly. And even today, Bill Belichick won't commit to Mac being the starter for the rest of the year. And again, I think just playing head games with him. That's different than it was last year. Okay, Mac had the ultimate, Mac had the ultimate confidence from his coaching staff. And this year, under a new coaching staff and with Bill Belichick, it hasn't been that way. So, yeah, Lee asked me what's happened to Mac. That's the answer. Everything else around Mac has degraded, or eroded, rather, I should say. It is the Brady Farkas Show, WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. And I see an interesting take here on social media from Vince Wilfork, who says he doesn't want to see Mac Jones frustrated anymore. I would say that's true also. We can talk more about that tomorrow, too. We do have the high school basketball game coming up here momentarily. I'll have a couple of minutes, maybe 10 minutes away from our coverage there. It is Montpelier and Lamoille. One interesting text that I saw also, Max over in the Mad River Valley. Brady, how do you think the Mets spending spree impacts Rafael Devers? Well, I don't have a full segment here to get into this. I'll just tell you briefly. If I'm Devers, I'm thrilled by what the Mets are doing, because every big deal that gets made gives me more and more leverage. Right? I would absolutely look at the Mets to my advantage and say, look, you don't want to pay up? I bet the Mets will. And if the Mets won't pay up, they'll at least drive up the price on other owners in the big markets, right? Yankees, Phillies, etc. Angels, Dodgers. So there will be other teams that are pulled into the spending spree of Steve Cohen, the big market teams, and Devers can look at all those teams and say, Red Sox, you don't want to get involved? I got plenty of options here where teams will pay me big money. And I do believe that the Mets spending spree will screw the Red Sox somehow. The Mets are going to go after Ohtani, as far as I'm concerned. And if they get him, it will be a massive record-setting deal, and that will bring up the price on all free agents behind him. Devers will benefit from that, and the Red Sox will either have to pay even more than they want to, like even more than they're uncomfortable with, or they're just going to lose him. Or the Mets won't get Ohtani, and they'll pivot to Devers, potentially. And I do believe there's room for Devers with the Mets, whether it's first baseman or DH or whatever. Lindor's at short, Correa's at third, Devers at DH. Sounds pretty good to me and sounds doable if they don't get Ohtani. So, yeah, I believe that the Mets spending spree will screw the Red Sox in some way here. Either they get Devers, they drive the price up on Devers, or Devers uses their ability to spend to hurt the Red Sox also. So, Tex says, do you remember the Super Bowl that Mahomes lost? He looked like Daniel Jones when his tackles were injured. QBs cannot cure bad line play. They cannot cure it, but a great quarterback can at least mask an offensive line deficiency. Not necessarily all season, but there are how many times did Tom Brady play, like, just get rid of the ball as quick as he possibly can, right? Some quarterbacks will run around and buy time. Some will get rid of it even quicker. And look, Joe Burrow, his first year, he wasn't great in his first year, but tore his ACL behind a bad offensive line. I get it. Offensive lines are foundational as well to having a quarterback play well. 1,000%. But again, a special quarterback can overcome some level of dysfunction, whereas Mac Jones is not special and cannot overcome much of the dysfunction that he's got this year. That's going to do it for us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. We're going to get you ready for high school basketball. It's going to be Montpelier and Lamoille on the boys' side. Brent Curtis will be on the call when we come back here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. I'll see you tomorrow. Buster Olney of ESPN will stop by. Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio was with us today, and Tom Karen of Nesson with us as well. All those interviews available on the Brady Farkas Show podcast channel. And go check out my Twitter account with Freddie wearing the Brady Farkas Show sweatshirt on national TV. That was pretty cool also. See you tomorrow. Enjoy high school hoops here on DEV.
Looking for cozy handcrafted holiday gifts that everyone will love? Visit the Vermont